in the heart of the quiet little village of Meadowbrook, nestled among rolling green hills and babbling brooks, lived a woman named Mrs. Gable. Her cottage, with its thatched roof and ivy-clad walls, was a picture of cosy tranquility, and in that cottage, by the warm, crackling fireplace, resided her dearest companion, a sleek black cat with eyes the colour of brilliant emeralds. His name was Whiskers. This evening, as the fire cast dancing shadows on the walls and the wind whispered secrets through the chimney, Mrs. Gable settled into her favourite armchair. The worn fabric sighed contentedly under her weight. She looked down at Whiskers, who was curled into a perfect, purring circle on the hearthrug, his green eyes half closed in blissful slumber. "Oh, Whiskers, my dear," she began, her voice as soft as spun wool. "Are you in the mood for a story tonight? I think you are. Yes, I think you'd like this one." Whiskers twitched an ear, a silent signal for her to continue. Mrs. Gable smiled. "Let me tell you a tale from a time long, long ago. A story of kings and queens, of good fairies and bad, and of a princess so beautiful they named her Aurora, for she was as radiant as the dawn. Once upon a time, in a kingdom far from here, a king and queen were blessed with a beautiful baby girl. The entire kingdom rejoiced. They decided to throw a grand celebration, a christening to which they invited all the important people in the land. Most importantly, they invited the 7 good fairies of the realm, for it was customary for fairies to bestow gifts of virtue and grace upon a royal child. The day of the celebration arrived, and the palace was a whirl of music, laughter, and dazzling colour. One by one, the fairies approached the infant princess's cradle. The first fairy gifted her beauty, the second a quick wit, the third gifted her grace in every movement, the fourth the gift of dance, the fifth a beautiful singing voice, and the sixth a mastery of music. The celebration was going splendidly. But just as the 7th fairy was about to step forward to give her gift, the great hall doors burst open with a crash. A cold wind swept through the room, extinguishing many of the candles and silencing the music. There, in the doorway, stood a figure cloaked in shadow and fury. It was Maleficent, the evil fairy, who was ancient and powerful, and whom the king had deliberately not invited, fearing her wicked nature. She was furious at the slight, her eyes glowing with a malevolent green, light much like yours, my dear Whiskers, but filled with spite scanned the room until they landed on the baby's cradle. "So," she hissed, her voice like grinding stones, "a celebration, and I was not invited. I, too, have a gift for the princess." She strode forward, her dark robes swirling around her like smoke. The king and queen trembled, but they were powerless to stop her. Maleficent raised a long, bony finger and pointed it at the tiny princess. "I decree," she proclaimed, her voice echoing through the silent hall, "that on her 16th birthday the princess shall prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel, and she will fall into a death-like sleep. A collective gasp of horror filled the room. The queen swooned into the king's arms, weeping for her daughter's terrible fate. With a cruel laugh that chilled everyone to the bone, Maleficent vanished in a puff of green and black smoke. Despair fell over the court. But then a soft light appeared. It was the seventh good fairy, the one who had not yet given her gift. She had hidden herself when Maleficent arrived. "Your Majesties," she said gently, her voice a soothing balm, "I cannot completely undo the evil fairy's curse. Her power is too great, but I can alter it." She approached the cradle and waved her wand, showering the sleeping princess in sparkling dust. "My gift is this: the princess will not die. Instead, she will fall into a deep sleep that will last 100 years, only to be awakened by true love's kiss." Though it was small comfort, it was a glimmer of hope. To protect his daughter, the king immediately issued a decree. Every single spinning wheel in the entire kingdom was to be burned. The people obeyed, and for years it seemed the danger had passed. To further safeguard the princess, the good fairies took her away to a hidden cottage deep in the forest. There, they raised her as a simple peasant girl named Briar Rose, never telling her of her royal heritage. Aurora, or Briar Rose, as she knew herself, grew up surrounded by the beauty of nature. She was kind, gentle, and her singing voice was so lovely that all the birds and animals of the forest were her friends. On the morning of her 16th birthday, the fairies sent her out to pick berries so they could prepare a surprise party for her. As she wandered through the woods, singing a beautiful melody, a handsome young man on horseback heard her voice. He was Prince Philip from a neighboring kingdom, and he was immediately enchanted. He followed the sound and found the lovely Briar Rose. They spent the afternoon talking and dancing, and without even knowing each other's true identities, they fell deeply in love. They promised to meet again that evening. When Briar Rose returned to the cottage, the fairies, in their excitement, revealed the truth. They told her she was a princess and was betrothed to a prince she had never met. Heartbroken, she told them she had already given her heart to a stranger in the woods. But it was her 16th birthday, and the time had come for her to return to the castle. They brought her to the palace, to a grand room where a beautiful gown awaited her. But she was filled with sorrow. Left alone for a moment, she was lured away by a strange, hypnotic green light. It was Maleficent's magic at work. The light led her up a winding staircase to a hidden, dusty tower room. And there, sitting in the corner, was an old spinning wheel conjured by Maleficent's dark powers. Drawn by the irresistible magic, Aurora reached out her hand. She touched the sharp point of the spindle. Just as the curse foretold, she pricked her finger. Instantly, she fell to the floor in a deep, enchanted sleep. The good fairies, arriving too late, were devastated. To spare the king and queen the grief of seeing their daughter like this, the fairies cast a gentle spell over the entire castle. Everyone, the king, the queen, the courtiers, the guards, even the cooks in the kitchen and the animals in the stables fell into a deep slumber to awaken only when their princess did. Then, as a final measure, they caused a massive, impenetrable thicket of thorns and twisted branches to grow up around the entire castle, hiding it from the outside world. Years passed, the story of the sleeping princess in the thorn-covered castle became a legend, a fairy tale told to children. 100 years went by, but the young man from the woods, Prince Philip, had not forgotten the girl with the beautiful voice. The good fairies found him and told him the truth. The peasant girl he loved was the lost Princess Aurora. They armed him with a magical shield of virtue and a sword of truth. Guided by the fairies, he rode to the cursed castle. Maleficent, seeing the prince approach, was enraged. She transformed herself into a monstrous, fire-breathing dragon to stop him. A terrible battle ensued. The dragon's fiery breaths scorched the earth, but the prince stood bravely, his shield deflecting the flames. With the fairies' help and all his courage, he threw his enchanted sword. It flew straight and true, striking the dragon in the heart. With a final, terrifying roar, the great beast fell, and Maleficent was vanquished forever. The thicket of thorns magically withered away, revealing a path to the castle gate. Philip rushed inside, through the silent halls filled with sleeping people, until he found the tower room. There, lying on a bed, was his beloved Briar Rose, as beautiful as the day he had met her. He knelt beside her and, ever so gently, gave her a kiss. At the touch of his lips, the curse was broken. Princess Aurora's eyes fluttered open. She smiled, for she saw the man she had fallen in love with. At that very moment, the entire castle awakened. The king and queen, the court, everyone stirred as if from a long nap. The kingdom was filled with joy and celebration once more. Princess Aurora and Prince Philip were married, and they lived, as all the best stories end, happily ever after. And so, my dear Whiskers, Mrs. Gable concluded, stroking the cat's soft black fur. That's the story of Sleeping Beauty. A reminder that even after the longest, darkest night, love and courage can bring back the dawn. Whiskers stretched, letting out a soft purr. He blinked his emerald green eyes slowly, as if he'd understood every word. The fire crackled softly, a cozy and contented sound in the quiet cottage, as another story time in Meadowbrook came to a peaceful end.